If only they knew. The hub for young business minds.
Yes, people, welcome back to another episode of the If Only They Knew podcast. Today, we're joined by Rob Illidge, CEO of Social Republic, Manchester's #1 social agency. If you don't mind explaining in your own words a bit more about who you are, firstly, and the things you do.
Sure. My name's Rob Illidge. I'm the CEO and founder of Social Republic. We're a global social media agency and started as kind of a new way, an alternative to traditional agencies. And our ethos is to work with ambitious, famous brands and brands with ambition to become famous. And we started in 2015. I worked in the industry for around about 8 years. I wanted to create something new for brands, and we've been doing well. We work with global brands such as eBay and Pioneer and Red Cross, and through to kind of local SMEs and entrepreneurs as well.
So you're very busy then, I guess.
Yeah, I actually thought lockdown was going to give me a bit of time off, but it's just been even busier because so many people are using the phones and using social media, and social media usage has gone through the roof. So yeah, it's been a busy time for us in particular.
Yeah, that's the same with me as well, mate. I thought lockdown was just going to be like a complete shutdown to what I do, and I thought it was going to put a block in it all. But yeah, if anything, it sort of helped. Have you found that it's helped you, or has it just made you more busy, or has it been positive?
There's definitely been a lot more inquiries from brands. I think in terms of the marketing mix, I think a lot of brands have thought, actually, we kind of not put a lot of our eggs into one basket, but I think we need to prioritize social at this moment. Yeah, it's been interesting from kind of a leadership point of view. Obviously, I'm used to being in the office and around teams, and we have global teams, so we're already set up for Skype or Zoom or whatever you may use already. But then obviously, everyone's been thrust into this new position where everybody's got to do it, and trying to lead and inspire teams has been a challenge because it's not something I'm used to. I'm used to seeing people, in front, and we've even hired people, and even going through the recruitment process of recruiting people that you've never met. And I feel like when you meet someone physically, you get a better idea of the body language and everything else. So that's been interesting. So there's staff members we haven't even met, face to face, but they're happy, which is good, which makes me happy.
It is quite weird though. It's taken away like the softer side of things, like you said, like the body language and stuff like that. It's little things like that you wouldn't even think of. You think, okay, we'll get them on a Zoom call like this, but you miss out on so much without even realizing. Like, I had so many interviews and stuff before towards like the start of the lockdown. I was looking for other jobs and stuff like that, and I was struggling. Normally in an interview, obviously it's face to face, and I feel so much more relaxed. I'm sort of leaning back, open to everyone. But with these Zoom call interviews, I was really struggling. Like I don't know, it just felt so artificial. And I sort of, even though with the podcast, I do it all the time, I have so much like interest and so much engagement into what the other person's saying. But on the interview, mate, I just couldn't connect with the person. Like, I just felt so disengaged. Like I was almost like, when someone talks and then they stop talking, you're like, oh my God, I have no idea what they just said. Like I couldn't focus at all. So I can only imagine what it's been like for you guys, but it sounds like it's going well.
Yeah, is that, do you look at the camera? Do you look at the screen?
Yeah.
Do you end up looking somewhere else? And I think everyone's skills have kind of developed over the last kind of few months, or developed new skills anyway. But yeah, when you're in face to face, you really get an idea of how somebody's feeling as well. So if they're feeling a little bit stressed or anxious, then you generally would get a better feeling of that. So we've tried to replicate what we do in-house and in the office through kind of one-to-ones with staff. So I have a one-to-one with each member of staff where I can each week, just to not even talk about work, just talk about, what are they watching on Netflix, or how they're feeling, outside, and just to take the pressure off, so it's not constantly talking about work, and just seeing how they're doing, and doing things like offering takeaways once a week, or anything that can just kind of help people. It's kind of evolved since the beginning of lockdown, the kind of benefits, but just trying to do a little bit for everybody, and everybody seems to be doing well, which is good.
Before we dive into sort of a bit more about yourself, obviously that's why you're here. Put some light on who you are as a person and stuff like that, and let everyone else find out. But just on that topic of sort of how businesses have evolved since lockdown, do you see like that more companies sticking to like the working from home environment and just that everything that they've picked up through the lockdown? Do you feel like more brands will stick to that? Like, what's your sort of take on it all?
Interesting question, because I was on a round table event a couple of weeks ago, and my thinking before I even got, well, I was going to say before I got to this event, before I joined the Zoom call for this event, was that everyone would have the same thinking as us, and that we would slowly maybe go back to the office, and that it wasn't as important anymore because we kind of got used to these calls. But it was really interesting to see that there's a huge mix of views. Some people literally were still in the office anyway because they had to be, depending on the industry.
Yeah.
Some have said, I packed up and I'm never going to go back. And others are kind of like us, where they said, we're going to make it kind of a staged process. I don't think we're in any rush right now. It all comes down to the team, I think, how the team feels. I've seen a lot of agencies kind of rush back into the office, and that may be a decision because their staff have said, you know what, we really need to be together to be creative, which a lot of people do. A lot of people work differently. They need to be around people. Whereas our team, you know, we've had discussions, and the kind of feedback is we're going to take a kind of staged approach, maybe a couple of days a week in the office just to kind of get together, be a bit more creative. And we do a progression session on a Monday and a reflection session on Friday, just to see what's going to be happening during the week, and at the end of the week, what's gone well and what can we improve on. In terms of brands, again, I think it's just going to be a variety of different views and different approaches. I really do think that there's going to be less emphasis on the office, especially with cost. If you think about the overhead, it's one of your biggest overheads as a business. I think people are going to look at it and review things. But it's crazy because I've seen, you know, news reports of companies taking up bigger offices. So, and I'm just looking at it thinking, why? But maybe you don't know the commercials around it. Could be a great deal. They might need their staff in the office. But I definitely think people are going to look at it, and brands are going to look at it and think, do we actually need certain people in the office? Are they better working from home? We find a lot with creatives, designers, developers, that sort of thing. They're happy at home. They work best at home. So, you know, if it's best for them, then yeah, absolutely fine. I think before this, there was a big kind of stigma and a taboo in terms of working from home. It was always that kind of, oh, this person's working from home, I bet they're not doing anything. They're probably just sat watching Netflix. Yeah, if someone was working from home, it meant they were hungover. Whereas now, it's just kind of a done thing, isn't it? You know, it's a new phase. So it'll be interesting to see what people do.
Yeah, it's definitely strange, and you're right. Like when I thought back to this time last year, a few people in the office that I was working for, they was talking about working from home, and it was just an absolute no. Like it was, by asking that, you're almost like on the verge of getting yourself sacked, because it was just like a complete no. Like you couldn't have asked a worse question. But yeah, it is mad how it's all sort of eased up a little bit. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get onto that stuff like that a bit more later on. But for those listening, always say it's good to find out who someone is now, rewind the clocks a bit, look at what they was like when they was a bit younger. So if you don't mind, what was a younger Rob like when you was at school? Was you clever? Was you naughty?
Oh God, I was the class clown, as they like to call me. No, I was a terrible student. I do feel sorry I'd like to apologise for parents and any teachers that I came across. We found out quite later on that I think I was just maybe not challenged enough. So I learned things in different ways, and I think the way that school was set up back then, it was kind of, you do this and that's it. And I knew I could do the work, and then if I'd finished it or I just found it too easy, I just messed around. So I wasn't a great student, and I was very fortunate a couple of years ago to go back to my old high school and my old college and give a talk to the pupils. And I just told them, don't be like me, but do be like me in a way, because I feel like education is still very, very important, but I feel like it's changing. I think brands and agencies in particular are putting a different focus on education and experience. I know we do in particular. So I wasn't great at high school. I have to apologize for that. But my parents said to me, they said, if you don't pass your GCSEs, you're going in the army. And so I was like, okay. I didn't like cleaning my shoes anyway, so I was like, oh. So I kind of straight through. I'm not ashamed to say, I straight through, and I was going. The plan, and what's crazy about this now is you see entrepreneurs who are 16. Back then, there's no way you could have been an entrepreneur. Like, it just wasn't really the done thing. There's no opportunities, and this isn't that long ago. And then, the plan was obviously the old kind of standard plan where you go to college, you go to university, and then you get a job, and then that was it. And you get a job to pay off the loan that you got to get an education, which is ridiculous. Back then, it was a lot cheaper, which is good. Then I went to college, and I quickly found that I actually originally wanted to study law. Law was fascinating to me. It was very competitive and really, really difficult. And then I just naturally found business easier.
Sorry to interrupt. What was it about law that caught your attention? If you wasn't sort of that good at school, you think law would be like the last thing you'd want to do?
Yeah, my GCSEs were just about good enough to study law at like AS A level, but I think it was the teacher, to be honest. I don't think it was the actual. I think he made it fun, because law is really boring if you actually read it or study it. It's so boring. Like he made the precedents and the cases just really fun, and I think we all remember that good teacher. If you go back to high school or college or whatever it may be, you always remember the horrible ones, but you also remember the really good ones. And he made it fun. He was a great teacher. But then when it got to exams, I just realised that I was naturally better at business studies than anything else, and I was fascinated by advertising, and I was fascinated by American kind of advertising, which then I then went to university, but with the idea of studying in America as well. So I chose my course on purpose to study in America, which then got me into what I'm doing now in terms of social media. So I went to university, did a year, and then my second year was at a university in America, in Connecticut, which was around 2006, which is when Facebook had just come out for American students. So you could only get it if you had a American university email address. This is going like way back. And it was a badge of honor back then, not like now where your mum's sending you dog photos and your dad's sharing fake news and that sort of thing. It's just, I mean, I love Facebook now because obviously it's part of our business, but back then it was more of it was a network. It was you go to a party and you'd meet somebody and you'd say, oh, you're on Facebook? And I'd be like, what the hell's Facebook? And then all the Americans were like teaching me. And back then all we had was, in the UK, I think it was MySpace and like Bebo and stuff. But Facebook just kind of took over. And then I was a little bit upset when it went public, and I got home and I was like telling everyone about Facebook and they couldn't join. And then it went public and then everyone joined, and then it just, then the parents started to join.
And then ruined it,
But I noticed straight away the power of it. Even though businesses weren't allowed to promote, or there weren't many features for businesses back then. We're talking like 14 years ago. But I understood the power very quickly of what was available. And then Twitter, YouTube started off as a dating site as well. A bit like Facebook. Yeah, so YouTube, they started off as a dating site, and you uploaded your video and you're like, hi, my name's Dave, or whatever. And I like long walks on the beach and that sort of thing. And they found that people just put cat videos on instead. Like, people started messing around with it. Then they were like, well, this cat video is getting more views than this dating video. So they pivoted and changed a general kind of video sharing platform.
That's
So
what, I never knew that. Like, I always thought
yeah.
it started off just like with the intention of just being like a generic platform for any stupid little videos. That's what I thought it was. Then I thought it transitioned into like a more business orientated where you could make money from it platform. But yeah, I never knew it
Yeah.
started off as a dating platform. That's not.
Yeah, same with Facebook as well, because Facebook was
Yeah.
basically to connect, basically just to connect people on campus. Similar to a kind of dating system, but yeah, that's how it started. And then I came back to graduate, and then I started working in the industry, in obviously the marketing industry, and my focus was social media, and it was quite new back then, so brands didn't really have a great understanding of how to use it.
How did you sort of, when you started seeing it, what was your take on it? Did you straight away think, bang, this is it, this is the one I can make, like I can make businesses, I can do everything with this? Or was it just like you said, you just saw it as a good platform? What was your sort of take on the whole element at the time?
I thought it was incredible. I thought this is going to be huge, and back then it was very basic kind of Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. Obviously, Instagram didn't exist back then. There's no TikTok or anything like that. So talking like basic social media. But I worked for a law firm back then, and again, law firms are not very exciting, not very sexy. They never used to really use social media. And I was quite fortunate that the company I worked for were quite progressive in that they wanted to use this technology to reach more people. So I was quite fortunate there that they gave me the kind of the tools and the power to use it. Whereas if I'd gone to another company, they might have said, you're just wasting your time. We should do traditional kind of PR and marketing. So my manager managed the kind of traditional offline marketing, and I focused on the social side. And then I went from there to work for a tech company, and then I worked in fintech, and then I'll tell you about that story later on.
All right, so tell us more then. So you was in a law firm, and then you said you was going into fintech, and what was the other one you mentioned?
Tech as well. So
tech.
I worked for a software company. Again, all really good in terms of wanting to use digital and social marketing. We did some great things, won a lot of awards, and then I kind of had this. I had this moment where I thought, I'm working for these companies and they're making a lot of money, which is great, but I want to do it for myself, and I want to do something different. I worked on the other side of the table, whereas we're pitching now to people that I used to be. I used to be on the other side of the table. Yeah. Agencies used to come into us, and we used to get 5 in, and they used to pitch to us, and it was all, and we get to choose, and you feel great because you have that decision to make. Now I'm on the other side of the table where we're pitching to do the work, which is quite interesting. But I found that there was a massive lack of transparency between agency and brand, because the agency would come in and they would say, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this. And then you spend, let's say, for example, like £40,000 on a campaign. And then they would just give the work to whoever was the youngest person in the office and was a bit of a junior and not as experienced. Or you had a team that maybe had experience and were quite senior, but they didn't have any expertise of your industry whatsoever. And they would have to learn, and you're kind of paying for that time for people to learn. So a lot of the time you don't get the best results because you don't have an expert team. You don't have that almost like fantasy football team of people that are put together that really understand your industry. So I thought there's got to be a better way than this. So I like to call it the pursuit of happiness kind of moment. I have to admit, I had a rough plan, but what I didn't have was money. I stupidly spent all my money going on holiday and whatever else, like you do when you're late 20s. But I didn't have any money. I had about 60 quid in the bank account. I had like the rent to pay in a month, and it was a stupid idea, but it worked. I wouldn't recommend doing it that way to anyone else. I would definitely say, save as much as you can, plan as much as you can before you leave your full-time salaried job. That's definitely a mistake I made. But I don't know if you've seen The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith.
No, I know it is. I haven't seen it, no, but I know it is.
There's a scene in the movie where he's in a competition on Wall Street, and he's got to phone as many people as he can and whoever makes the most sales or gets the most meetings that day wins the job. And he's basically got he's living on the streets, he's got no money, so it means everything to him. So he comes up with his tactics. So instead, he noticed everyone else puts the phone down and then picks it back up. The old style kind of telephone.
Yeah.
Whereas what he does, he just presses the receiver, so then he doesn't have to put it down, so it saves him time. He doesn't drink water, so he doesn't have to go to the toilet, and then he wins because he's saving all this time. And then Hollywood style movie. But what I did that was similar was I basically just made a list of all the people I've worked with over the kind of last 8 years, and I started with people who I didn't know very well at the top, and I worked my way down to people at the bottom who. And like family and friends, and the reason I did that was because I needed a client. I needed the agency whatever the agency was back then, just me. I needed the agency to have a client, obviously, and I needed income and I needed to pay my rent. That was like the first thing. I thought, well, I can just eat beans and toast, with the cheapest things.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing that. That's a sacrifice. But so I started at the top, and I just rang everybody, and I just said, can you give me a piece of work? I've worked in the industry for 8 years, and I could really help you. And then when you start to get down to the bottom of the list, you kind of have to throw ego and pride, kind of out the window, because you're getting down to people that you speak to on a regular basis. And then you start to think, can I really, it's like almost, you don't want to feel like you're begging for work, but you've got to do something to get that work. That's why you have to throw the kind of the pride and the ego out. So I did that, and then I got down to my very first boss at the law firm, and she left to start her own charity. And she said, you know what, we work so well together. I really need someone come on board. So that was my first client. And then I had a friend who I go to football with. He said, actually, we need some help. And what I should have done is probably rung those people first. I had too much pride. So I didn't want to be like, I've started my own company, blah, blah, blah. And so that's how we got started 5 years ago. And then we got some great recommendations, and then very quickly had to get staff in and to help build this team. And then to help build this new way, this alternative to traditional agencies, I built a network of people I'd worked with in the past and people who I knew could kind of come on board for projects. So we've got just over about 400 people working for us now, using that kind of network. So the idea is that if we work with a retail brand, they just work with kind of retail experts. So say, for example, an expert in Instagram who's worked for retail businesses, they'll come on board as part of the kind of the project, part of the team. And we use them in different times, but it just helps for a brand to then have that kind of expertise on demand when they need it.
Yeah, which is like how it should be, isn't it? Like you said earlier, it's almost like you should have that team of like Avengers, or the ultimate team, as you put it, that a brand can come to you and then you can literally just say, all right, you're in this sector and you want this platform. And like you said, Instagram, retail, boom, put that person with the brand, and it's the perfect mix. There's no sort of time lost in learning and trying to educate the team member. It's literally just a case of put the two together and it all work.
Yeah, we work with a lot of international clients, so American and Australian, and naturally if we're working with an American brand, we have a team in America, so they know tone of voice, they know what's going on in that particular sector, they know what's going on politically and that sort of thing. So it's a bit of a no-brainer really to have that, rather than having to learn it and start from scratch. If a construction company comes in, a traditional agency probably doesn't know anything about construction unless they're a construction expert. But the problem when you have experts within one particular industry is that then you're competing against other people. So if two construction companies come in and they work in the same space, the agency basically will favor who pays the most. And it shouldn't work like that. And I've seen it before. I worked previously I did a little bit of freelancing before I started the agency, just to see what agencies were like. And there's some great ones in Manchester. So I like to think that we took a little bit from each agency of what they did well and kind of built Social Republic. Some were fantastic. They were some not so, but that's why we're here.
So what are like some of the you sort of spoke about some there that made me think, what other mistakes? I know it seems like you're digging them out. Um, so, but like what common mistakes do you see like other agencies doing? Like you mentioned a couple there, but is there like one overriding thing that you just look at and you think, oh God, why are they still doing that? Or is it a number of individual cases?
I think going back to an office full time is the first one,
Yeah.
unless there's a reason why. But I think a lot of agencies, especially with social, they say that they do social, but they don't. They just have a small team that is dedicated to it. And now we don't do SEO, we don't do PPC. What we do well is social media and social media campaigns, and we stick to that one thing. So we do one thing and we do it well. And I think a lot of agencies make the mistake of trying to take on board everything they can. So whether it's website development, SEO, PPC, or social as well, I think that is a huge mistake that is often made.
And some of the good things, is there something you see and it's like, okay, yes, I'm glad we're sort of all on the same page with this in terms of all the agencies. Is there something you're all doing well?
Yeah, the way I see it with other agencies, I can't imagine a world, or I wouldn't really like a world where you have a monopoly, because you get lazy. If you're the only company out there doing something, you're not really going to see how you can develop as well as if you've got somebody who you're competing against. The way I see it is we're all kind of in boats, and there's a little bit of water underneath us. And the more that these companies talk about the power of social media, the more that we float. And that's kind of the way I see it. I think there are some great agencies who, like us, kind of have the finger on the pulse. So they're constantly talking about what networks are doing. There's a new Facebook feature every single day. You bring out something new. Instagram will bring out something new, TikTok. So yeah, always talking about kind of what's available, and that will then help brands to develop their own campaigns. One of the best things I found from an agency was more internal, so the way they develop the teams, and it's something we've taken on board in terms of our meetings. So as I mentioned earlier, on Monday is kind of a progression meeting. So it's more about kind of a relaxed meeting in terms of how's your weekend been, what did you do, what you're watching on Netflix, and then what have you got on this week, like what's your priorities this week, and what do you need from the team to help you achieve what you need to do. And then there's no need to micromanage after that. There's no need to micromanage anyway. That I got micromanaged so much when I worked for brands that I think I've gone the opposite way. I just kind of let everyone just get on with things. I think it's the best way. You need to trust staff. And then on a Friday we have kind of a reflection. So we say, how's your week been? What were challenges? What have you found that's gone well? What do we want to celebrate? Obviously now it's easier, but we can just all have a drink on a Friday, a virtual beer or whatever it may be. And just celebrate what we've done that week. And because by the time you get to the end of the week, there isn't a lot you can really do. Or things are kind of set up for the weekends anyway. So yeah, it's more around reflection. I think that works really well with staff.
I'm glad you said that, because I was wondering, like with a social marketing agency or just a marketing agency in general that has a bit of like that sort of funkiness, that edge to it. Do you think it's possible to have an agency that does that type of work for those type of clients, but have a boring team? Now, I know that sounds mad, but all the agencies I see that have like a funky sort of vibe to them, it's the team that's really pushing that message forward as well. And it seems like you can't have one without the other, or am I wrong? What's your sort of take on that?
It's an interesting question, because I think you're right. I think you'll see like an agency with an amazing website, but when you actually get to work with them, they're dull as dishwater. Maybe, I don't know, but it depends. As some brands see it as long as they get the work done, it doesn't really. I guess it depends what they're like, but some brands see it as long as they get the work done, it doesn't really matter. Whereas the way we pitch it is we're not an external agency, we're an extension of their team. So we're like a team, we're just in a different office, or we're just on a different Zoom call. I think it does help having a friendly team and a team that you can get on with, because say if you're dealing with a digital marketing manager and you have an account manager. They're going to want someone who's the friend. They're going to want someone who's kind of fun to get on with. And so in that case, I would say it does matter. I think everybody's personality differs, but from my experience, they want a pal. They want somebody who is going to make them look good at the end of the day. That's what they need. They need them to look good at the end of every week, every month. And also, to get on well with, a lot of our clients, I'm good friends with now, even after we've finished projects, still good friends with them. So I do think it helps. They're all people at the end of the day. So I do think it helps to have a nice, friendly team. But on the other side, as long as they get the job done, that's all that matters at the end of the day. But yeah, I think it's nice to be nice.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And like on that sort of point, like I think if you do have that sort of team where you're all bubbling and you show that to your audience, not necessarily on a client basis, but on a sort of people that you want to attract to actually work at the company, it creates like a massive sense of FOMO. Like people are like, oh my God, like, did you see what that company did? Oh, I'd love to work there. Then before you know it, in a few weeks, in a few months' time, they're looking at your site every day, waiting for that job to pop up. And like we've seen so many brands do it, like especially the biggest example, well, the biggest being Google, Facebook, but then like in the UK, like Social Chain and stuff like that. And there's so many others that are doing it. And the FOMO, just people will be flying, like knocking at your door, waiting to work for you. And is that something you sort of experience? Like, do you have people literally like queuing up theoretically to join you?
Yeah, I think I get maybe like 20 to 30 job applications every day, especially when obviously people graduate. There's a big influx of people coming through. I think the important thing is to set expectations in terms of your team, because you can run these great campaigns and then people will be like, oh yeah, I want to work for this company. But I think it's important to set the expectations of what it is actually like. People expect it to be all slides and puppies and beers at 10 in the morning. But actually, I wouldn't say working for an agency is boring, but it's not like a Hollywood movie. It is quite serious, and there are times when you just kind of have to get your head down and get on with work. And it might not be as sexy as it appears on the outside, but it's still great fun. And I think if you give off the impression that you are going to be going down a slide at 10 in the morning and having a beer, I think people will be in for a big shock when they actually get into the office and they realise they've actually got to do some work. It's like, oh, I don't get to mess around all day and play pool or whatever, But then obviously on the flip side, you have to make working for your company exciting and fun, and it's taken us, and we're still learning, it's taken us 5 years to realise what's important for people, what are the benefits people want. The benefits when I started working were I got the benefit of going to get the managing partners and the senior partners bacon sandwich every Friday. And that was my benefit, because I got to go out of the office for like an hour, and I was like, oh, great. So and then you get people saying, can I have the fat put off my Greg's bacon sandwich? And you're like, oh, for God's sake. So the benefits have changed, but people now, they want Netflix subscriptions, or they want a takeaway, or they want time off, or they want to work from home. It's changed massively. I feel like you've got to set expectations as well, because we found that the staff that we've got on as they're just very, very nice people. And I think some people do make the mistake of coming in and interviewing and think, I've got to be wild, I've got to be crazy, I've got to stand out. I think if you just yourself and you're just calm, they're the best people, and those are the people who tend to get recruited. The ones who are passionate about the industry, who actively seek out to get experience, whether it's just through internships or creating their own podcasts or blogs, and they just kind of come in and they're excited, but they're not kind of too over the top. We've had people come in and kind of interview where we've known that they've not put the presentation together, and it's been a little bit awkward because you don't want to call them out, but then you want them to be honest as well. So I would say, definitely set expectations, and it depends. Obviously, every company is different. There might be companies out there that are wild every day and having parties every day, but will they get the work done? I don't know.
Probably not. No.
No, I think once you get your first couple of hires, and then once you start to then build a team, you really realize very quickly what sort of person you want within your business.
Yeah.
Of course, you want people who you can have a chat with. That's kind of a no-brainer. But everybody works differently, so the account manager might communicate more because they are used to communicating within their role, whereas a designer or a developer generally likes to kind of get their head down and do the work and maybe sit in the corner of the office and do it. But that's what they like. So, let them do that. So it's a really, really difficult balancing act, and getting the right people is so hard.
But how many people did you say you had it like in your team? There's a lot, right?
Yeah. So we just got just over 400.
Wow. And how many did you ever use influence freelancers? I feel like I read somewhere that you used freelancers in the early stages, or do you still do that now? And if so, what was that like?
Yeah, so we still use freelancers now. We're very honest about it, and I feel like the freelancer taboo is also kind of has disappeared. I wrote an article for Forbes a few months ago talking about the freelancer economy, and there's a stat that says that, I don't know whether this has changed because of COVID, it might have increased, but it said that by next year, more than 50% of people in America will be remote working in some capacity. So like a freelancer in some kind of way. So that's like half the population, which is crazy. It's a crazy amount of people. And I compared the number of people who used to work in the mills and of Manchester, and the work, what they call the worker bees, and during the Industrial Revolution, the same amount of people now are freelance in the same area. So It just goes to show like how things are changing, and it allows you to be flexible as well. There's people out there who are leaving brands and agencies who have 20 years experience to go freelance. So why would you not tap into that kind of resource? They want the flexibility of working on projects they're excited about, and they can pick and choose. Obviously the financial aspect as well. They can make as much money as they want to, and it allows us to work with some great people, when we need to, and it really does help brands. There's so many freelancers out there, and I feel like over the years the perception has changed. So it's not outsourcing to a country that doesn't necessarily speak English. It's about using the right people on the jobs at the right time.
Yeah. Even like I do this full time now, but in my last 9 to 5, there was such a weird view. I think it was more so like the culture when a freelancer would come in, because we worked in the events industry. So I think with there, you've got more scope. It's a lot broader. So there's all different people, but like we was a young team, and whenever a freelancer would come in, it'd always be like an old man, and we'd all sort of like, we try and be nice to him, but like when you just don't, not feel uncomfortable, you just don't feel as comfortable with them because we was all so young and bubbly, and it was like, oh hi, like and he just doesn't feel the same. But that's like a one-off case. Like you said, people are moving more and more towards freelancing, and especially in your industry, I guess it's a lot easier to get the right type of person, because it's a much more focused industry rather than the events industry, where they could have come from any sort of angle within that.
Absolutely, yeah. And about what it will have been about 5 years ago, just when I started the agency, I went to an event, and it was like a networking event, which I absolutely hate going to anyway. And I was scared of saying I had an agency because it was just me at the time, and I didn't have a co-founder or anything like that. So I told this guy I was a consultant, and he said, "Oh, you mean you don't do anything then?" I was just like, "Well, I wish I knew who it was now to go back and say, look what we built." But he said, "Oh, so you don't do anything." So, but I think that's massively changed now, and think how useful freelancers are now, that you get these senior people. It's not like people who have a few years experience or just left university and they haven't got as much experience. These are people who are 15, 20 years of industry experience who are going freelancer. Why wouldn't you use that experience?
Yeah, exactly. This is a bit more of an open-ended question in a sense. Feel free to sort of take it however you want. But for people, specifically smaller brands getting into the world of social, say my brand, for example, I've just started up. Obviously, I've got my media group, which is in the early stages, been a few years now I've been doing it. And I really want to use social media to the max. Now, again, putting you on a spot here, and it's a bit of an open-ended question, but what are some of the things that you think I should be doing as a small brand on social media? Is there anything I should do? Is there anything I should avoid, generally speaking?
I think you have to first work out your goal. What is the point of you doing it? Like, what is going to make you look good? What's going to make you feel good at the end of every week, every month? Some people, all they want is vanity metrics, so they just want followers, and it doesn't mean anything to them. If that's what you want, then great. But yeah, work out actually what you want to achieve, what's going to help your business grow. Obviously, for most businesses, it's sales. For some businesses, they want more brand awareness and then sales following that. So the first thing is to work out your goals. And that could be, what do I want to achieve at the end of this week? Set yourself a milestone. So you've got 1,000 followers. Okay, by the end of the week, I want 1,500 followers, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Set the goals first. So these can be small ones, so like weekly through to kind of monthly. And I don't know if you ever watched Homeland, but on Homeland, they had a character who was basically chasing terrorists, and she had this crazy like board on the wall of like all these different people and lines, connecting them.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing every single year still to this day. And I do it at Christmas every year. And it's like, what do I want to achieve next year? So it's like 12-month plan.
Yeah.
And just like little things coming off. So like, what podcast do I want to go on? Or, what blogs do I want to write? And that sort of thing. Or what should the business be doing? So that's kind of the first thing. So there you kind of your bigger goals. The second one, probably one of the most important, is audiences. You've really got to understand, who do you want to be talking to? And a lot of people make the mistake of kind of pigeonholing people and saying, well, it's everybody, or it's people who are just 18 to 30, or whoever I can get on Facebook, that sort of thing. You've got so many different personas. Somebody who's young living in the north of England might be very, very different to somebody who's a little bit older who lives in the south of England, for example. Or, if they're in a different country, then it's a whole different ball game. So you've got to put yourself in those people's shoes. So create these different personas. So it could be Jenny, who's 31, or Dave, who's 25. What Instagram accounts do they follow? What sports teams did he like? What TV shows did he watch? Or what Netflix shows did he watch? And by doing that, you can then start to obviously identify people to follow, and then they can follow you back and that sort of thing. But by understanding those audiences, you can then start to work out what platforms are best. So if you've got an older audience, you're generally looking at things like Facebook, maybe Pinterest, LinkedIn, depending on whether it's B2B, B2C.
Yeah.
Younger audiences, obviously, if you're targeting 16 to 18-year-olds, it's going to be TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram. And my nieces, they kill me when I see them, because they're just constantly on TikTok. But I use them as little guinea pigs. I always say to them, who's cool right now? Who's like, which YouTuber are you watching? So they tell me, I'm like, why do you like this person? And this influencer put out a book. She's just released a book. And this girl's 9 years old, and she said, I want this book. I said, why do you want that book? She said, because she released it. I was like, but what's in it? She said, I don't know.
Yeah.
She just wanted the book. I was like, wow, that's ridiculous. But understanding audiences is very, very important, because then you can work out the platforms. So once you figure out your personas, you go to your platforms, and then you can work out, where am I best spending my time? Where are the people I want to speak to, and where are they? And start small. It's only one social network, or another, maybe two social networks. Quality is better than kind of quantity. And I think brands, and especially new businesses, make the mistake of thinking, I've got to be everywhere. And you really don't have to. You can make a lot more noise doing one thing well, or a couple of things really, really well. And then obviously then it comes down to how you're going to serve your content. And there's multiple options here. So the natural one is obviously organic content, which you create and post out. And I think that should be a part of anyone's strategy. So having a regular kind of bank of content and schedules, that sort of thing. And then that can support paid campaigns. So you might want to put some money into supporting content and getting content in front of other people, or you may have created a Facebook audience or an Instagram audience that you want people to see, of people you want to see your content. or you could use influencers. So they're kind of the main three would be your organic, your paid, and your influencers. And it is a full-time job, it really is. But there's lots of things out there that you can use. You know, there's lots of scheduling tools, there's lots of websites you can use for inspiration, and competitors as well. They're the best ones. You know, certainly on Facebook, you can see which ads your competitors are running. So it's a bit of a no-brainer to see, oh, let's have a look at their ads. Let's see how they're performing. You know, what are they talking about, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then you can use things like social listening tools. So there's quite a few free platforms, or you can, obviously the more you pay, the kind of more you get, sort of thing. But you can set up keywords. So, okay, I want to monitor my brand, I want to monitor my competitors, but I also want to monitor a few different keywords so that I've got my finger on the pulse. So as soon as somebody mentions this on Twitter or Instagram, I'm going to get a notification, and I'm on it straight away. And you're way ahead of your competitors in that way. And I think social listening is kind of, it's not used effectively at the moment as well as it could be. It's something we offer for brands, but yeah. And then finally, just kind of wrap up, I'd say analysis or measuring what you've done is really, really important, because there's no point going through all those steps and all those processes if you don't realize what works and what doesn't. I think that brands make a huge mistake when they're running ad campaigns, in that they don't test multiple ads. So they run one campaign to one audience and then one advert, and it's like, you're never going to know whether if it's doing well, why is it doing well, and who's buying into it. If it's not doing so well, you wouldn't understand why. So if you build multiple audiences, like I said before, you know, you could build an audience to target people in the north because they might react differently to a particular product or particular creative, and then somebody in the south, for example. Or it could be sex, you know, men and women react differently to different things, so you could split your audiences that way. And then having multiple ads. And we worked with a car manufacturer, and we had the same ad running, and we just put slight tints on the image. So one was like a blue, then a green, and a red. And the one with the slight red tint performed way better than anything else. And it was just
really
that slight little change in the color, that people in the feeds, maybe it's a psychological thing, I don't know, but they just saw that ad and it stood out more, and outperformed the others. So we said, right, okay, we're going to go with this.
Yeah, that now all you're gonna see on my Instagram is just pure red posts. I'm definitely gonna on everything you said pretty much. I'm gonna rerun this tape back and write it all down. I'm gonna implement it myself, because especially that idea of not just sticking to one thing, putting it out there and saying, oh, that did well, and leaving it, running multiple ads or multiple posts even at the same time, and analyzing it all, and then saying, okay, we'll do this from now on, and move forward with that. So yeah, that's great advice.
No, I can send you some more stuff as well. And we test on TikTok all the time to see what people are reacting to, even down to how many people should be in a video. So we found that creating a video without a person and with a single person in, the video with a single person in outperformed the one without, because people want to see other people. That's the whole idea of the platform. But then we started to test against, was it better to have 2 people in the video or 3 people, and what kind of hashtags work well, and we constantly tested it. And the same for LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I'm a big advocate. I'm not getting paid for saying this, not yet anyway.
Yeah.
But I test all the time. So I test now whether, it used to be a case of people are on the tube and then they're going to work. So I'm going to post something out at like 8:30 before they get to the office. So that used to work, but now everyone's working from home. People might get up at like 9, 10 o'clock. So it's constantly evolving and changing. Some of my posts go out and they might get like 1,000 likes on LinkedIn. The next one goes out, I get 2, and you're like, is the algorithm messing with me? But it's just about the timing of it. You just have to constantly test. The Instagram one's interesting, So constantly test, obviously, with your hashtags and the type of creative that you put out, and also use as many features as you can. The algorithm generally favors you if you use kind of new features like Reels, for example. Make sure you're tagging relevant accounts into them as well, into your posts.
Oh man, I feel like I've milked you so much for advice.
That's
Thank you so much. Literally
just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it definitely helps me, so I'm sure it's helping everyone listening. But we're close to sort of running out of time here, so I appreciate your time. But yeah, what's next for you? Because I heard personally you're climbing a particular mountain
Yeah,
virtually. Is that right? Am I correct in saying that?
I've done that already.
Oh, you done it already? Oh my
I've
God.
done it, yeah.
What was it? And it was virtual, right?
Yeah, so I'll tell you the full story very quickly. So a couple of years ago, I went on safari in Kenya, and we were very fortunate to be able to go to local school. And they told us that it only costs around about £90 a year for a child to have an education for a year.
Wow.
And it made me kind of, sit back and think, and £90 is not a lot of money, and you go for a meal and you spend, if there's 2 or 3 of you, you easily spend £90. It was nothing, and I felt really bad that I'd spent all this money on a trip, and we could be giving an education to these kids, and they had things like, I'm not trying to pull on heartstrings, but they had like barbed wire around the school because there's lions, there's predators in terms of animals, not trying to get them, but just in case. And then obviously the girls were very strongly had very strong opinions, and they were trying to raise awareness of FGM and that sort of stuff, which obviously goes on a lot more over there than it does in kind of Western Europe. And then the kids had three kids shared a desk basically, and which when you looked at it, you think you could only get one on there. Yeah. Textbooks are old, and the biggest thing they wanted was chalk, because that's all they need, and chalk's really hard to get hold of. So yeah, I thought, I need to do something to raise some money for these kids, and they had a big list of priorities. The head teacher gave us, a tour, and the kids sang songs and did some dances, and I felt really a little bit awkward because, I'm British and we feel awkward about everything. But they were, really happy for us to visit, and it changed my thinking a lot once I'd seen it. You see it on TV a lot, and you don't really take as much notice as when you actually go there and, see what it's like. So then I thought, well, what can I do to raise a bit of money? And I've boxed for quite a long time. I've boxed for about 10 years, and I've had a few fights for charity and stuff like that, and thought, I'm getting a bit old for boxing now. So what else can I do? So my dad climbed Kilimanjaro 7 years ago. So he was 63 back then. So
he did that in real life, not virtually, right?
He did it in real life. So then I said, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to climb it physically. And it was supposed to happen in June. So we were meant to climb the Mara Rianda primary school in Kenya in June. But then obviously COVID hit and the whole world came to a halt. So I said, okay, well, if I can't do it then, I'll do it virtually. So we still did it, the same amount of walking each day as we would on the mountain. So we completed it virtually. We raised a bit of money there. So we've now raised just over about £2,500, which gives education to 22 children. And the girls miss out on 25% of their education due to not having sanitary protection. So, which only costs £400 a year, which is ridiculous, in terms of cost. So we've provided that for a year as well. So then they get the full education, and they outperform the boys as well. So they really miss out, on the studies. So it'd be good to give them that education for the full year. But I'm happy to report that we rebooked the flights, and I'm going out in 2 weeks. So I'll actually be doing it for real in 2 weeks.
Oh wow, that's amazing, mate! Congrats on that, because that's something
Thanks.
that a lot of people would sort of strive to do, but just always sort of push it to the side a bit, especially during these hard times. So well done for doing that, mate. And I'm sure, like you said, to them it will literally change their life. That's mad.
Yeah, there's a lot that they need, but and obviously we're supporting one school and then a few others in the local community, but there's hundreds and thousands of other schools that are like that. So it's very difficult choosing a charity, but that it meant a lot to me when I went there and I saw it, in person. So hopefully, it'll be a great benefit to them. So I'm training every day as much as I can. Hopefully we'll get to the top. If we don't get to the top, I'm not coming home. I've got my flag ready, so If we don't get to the top, I'm not coming back. So I will be there at the top at some point. So fingers crossed. It takes about 8 days to climb. So that, yeah, hopefully it'll be okay. It's going to be quiet, I guess, because there's not many people traveling. Not many people really want to go over the mountain either.
No, definitely not. Not now, anyway. Best of luck with that. Anyway, I can't wait to
Thank you.
That on your socials. Hopefully, you get that posted up, and I'll share that all around. That's amazing.
Yeah, I have to give a bit of a shout out to Manchester United as well, if I can. They've been really great in supporting us in terms of giving us kit for the porters. So there's 14, or there'll be 17 crew members, so porters, cooks, guides, that sort of thing, taking us up. So Manchester United provided shirts for all of them, the new kit and everything. So we'll have a nice little picture with the guys. So yeah, they've been great in terms of providing that. It's an extra gift. They don't earn a lot in terms of they earn a fair wage, what's classed as a fair wage in Tanzania, but it's something around about £7 a day to take us up, which is stupidly low. But we wanted to give them this as an extra gift, and then obviously we'll tip at the end. But yeah, it's been really nice of them to do that.
That's amazing, mate. So yeah, like I said, congrats on that, and yeah,
thank you.
I look forward to seeing that, and I'm not just saying this; it's actually made me sort of want to do something similar myself. I've always been thinking about it, but I'm definitely gonna put pen to paper straight after this call and sort of think of where I can do something similar, So yeah, thank you for that, mate.
Try some boxing.
Yeah, mate, I've started the white collar, but obviously.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, but with everything happening, it's been pushed back and back. But yeah, no, definitely, I've probably will end up doing something, even if it's sort of by myself in some form, boxing related or anything.
Yeah.
Get the bag for a certain amount of hours or something stupid, But yeah, that sounds amazing. But what's next for that? That's obviously your personal side of things. But what's next for the brand itself? Have you got anything planned? I know it's been a hectic year for you, but is there anything planned?
Yeah, just growth, I guess. It's as simple as it sounds, but growing into new countries. We're building a platform for LinkedIn, which will be very exciting, which we're hoping to release towards the end of the year. These things even like website builds, everyone says it'll be ready in 4 weeks, and it never is. So that's what, we're excited to build that. So we find that because of budget restraints, we can't help every brand, we can't help every business, and it's something that we would like to do. We'd like to help everybody, but in terms of time and budgets, we can't do everything. So we wanted to create a platform where people could spend less of a budget but still have access to kind of what we know and create great pieces of content. And we're starting with LinkedIn. So the platform's called Hubble, like the telescope. So we should be launching towards the end of the year. That'll be a kind of a big project for us. And then just growth in different countries, more kind of announcements in terms of the brands we're working with, watch this space. So yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a good end to a very strange year, I would say. Yeah, hopefully 2021 is going to be everyone's year.
Yeah, well, hopefully if the lockdown don't continue, but yeah, hopefully it will be, mate. So final question then before I let you go. I know I've taken up a lot of your time.
No, it's fine.
Final question, hard-hitting one.
Okay.
What do you want your legacy to be?
That is a very, very good question. I would love for people to, whatever I do, whenever I retire or whenever I, go off, wherever it may be, I'd love people to think that I made a difference for the better. I've done a lot around visioning and what I see as my vision and what I want for the future. And even if people join the business and then we act as almost like a stepping stone and then they go on to do something else, because let's face it, when I was working for businesses, you were there for 5 years and you'd never leave after a year. It just wasn't the done thing.
Yeah. People's
attitudes and people's perceptions have changed completely now. So you often see people working for a business for a year and then moving on because it's just the way we've changed in society. But I'd love those people to then say and think about me and think about the business in particular, thinking, I learned something, I really got something out of that. And maybe I made a difference, or the business or the people we're working with really made a difference. So that's what I would like to leave.
That's fantastic, mate. It sounds like you're on the right track though. You're doing great things. And yeah, I look forward to finding out more about you in the future and the stuff that you'll go on to do. But for everyone else listening, um, have you got a message for them or anything you'd like them to go and do, i.e. follow all your pages and stuff like that?
Yeah, obviously the natural ones are follow all our social accounts, Social Republic. But yeah, if you anyone wanted to donate, connect with me on LinkedIn, Rob Illidge. You'll find me on LinkedIn, Social Republic. If you want to make a donation to my Just Giving page, that'd be wonderful. I'd love that. And then obviously, if anyone wants to get in touch, please feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn or email me. That's absolutely fine.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time and all the advice as well, mate. I'm
You're welcome.
so much. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Cheers, mate. See ya.
See ya.
If only they knew, the hub for young business minds.